All right, and welcome into the Fantasy Pros Fantasy Football Podcast. It is the Week 12 reaction episode. We did it. We survived a By-Mageddon, by NATO, whatever you want to call it. We made it through. I'm your host, Seth Woolcock, hanging out with you as Sunday winds down. I'm joined by an absolute weapon, a man that I'm surprised is still with us after perhaps the strangest weekend of football I can remember in quite some time across both the collegiate and pro level. Scott Bogman, you think you've seen it all, man.
You've never seen it all. That's the thing, is there's always something new. That's why we keep coming back for more. And yes, I mean, the fourth quarter in the Washington-Dallas game was insane. Imagine taking the under in that game and then seeing this crazy fourth quarter. I mean, it was a wild Sunday, a wild Saturday, our Thursday game. I mean, just the pictures of one half to the second half was insane. And the ending of that game was nuts. This was everything you want in a weekend, unless it didn't work out for you, of course. So, but we're here. We're ready to break it down.
Yeah, we've got a stacked program for y'all tonight. We're going to break down all 10 games played on Sunday. No Dr. Deepak Chona today, but Boggs and I will touch on some injuries of note as well. Thanks to everyone who watches and listens to this episode each and every single week. It's such a blessing to see so many live viewers in the chat talking it up, talking, hey, this player let me down this week. This player came through for me. We appreciate you. If you are here on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. Plus, subscribe if you're new. It is the easiest free way to support us here at Fantasy Pros. And Boggs, let's go ahead. Let's jump right into the games, man. Let's start in New York, where I thought it would be a good idea to play the Giants defense against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A -4 points. When will I learn? The Buccaneers, they win this one 30-7, 4 rushing touchdowns for the Buccaneers, 1 from each of Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, and Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans returns, and it only kind of hurts Cade Otton, who caught 1 of 3 targets for 30 yards. Boggs, any thoughts on Otton or the rest of this Buccaneers offense, who is healthy as they're going to get for the rest of the way here?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in Otton, right?
Agreed.
But the Giants defense I understand why you would start them. They're a solid defense, but with that offense, it was, constant 3 and outs and fumbling, and it didn't look good under Tommy DeVito. And it makes you wonder, man, maybe Daniel Jones is pretty good if this is what it looks like without him, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay just rolled, and we saw the shift in the running back room again, and it seems like we may have more defined roles. At least it looks like maybe Sean Tucker is going to be the goal line back. They brought him in twice to score. He got the first one. He didn't get the second one. Mm-hmm. They ended up giving it back to Bucky, who got it there. But yeah, I mean, typical game from the Bucs here, outside of the 4 rushing touchdowns. Usually Baker's throwing those. Evans looked good in his return. We saw a full complement of snaps from McMillan, not a lot of targets.
Yeah.
But Cade Otton, disappointed in him, but I think he's going to be okay moving forward. And I think Payne Durham caught one of his big passes, probably should have gone his way as well. So if Otton gets out when it's 2 for 56 instead of 1 for 30, and that's more like a Cade Otton day that we're used to recently.
Yeah, I agree with you. And on the Giants side of things, 245 total yards in Tommy DeVito's first start after the release of Daniel Jones earlier this week. I've kind of been the one not defending Daniel Jones because he hasn't played well, but this offensive line is atrocious. We know that. Tyrone Tracy, he goes 9 for 42 on the ground, 4 through 28 through the air, kind of saved his day, but he did have a costly fumble. 5 for 47 for our guy Wan'Dale Robinson on 5 targets, and 6 for 64 for the rookie Malik Neighbors on 9 targets. Boggs, Neighbors has scored over 15 fantasy points not any week since week number 4. Is 8 to 14 points kind of the range we're looking at the rest of the way here with the talented rookie out of LSU?
Probably. I mean, he's, moving into that touchdown dependent type of area. So, hopefully he gets in the end zone. I would love to see Drew Lock in this offense. I know the O-line is bad and he will probably get popped a couple times, but if he's willing to take the punishment, I'd rather see him drop back there because DeVito just doesn't really have it. So thoroughly unimpressed with what I saw with Tommy DeVito today. Tampa Bay's defensive line is good. So, maybe they'll be a little bit better, but they get Dallas on Thursday on 4 days rest. And that's Micah Parsons. We saw gassed up Micah Parsons finally looking healthy, held Washington down for most of that game until the fourth quarter. Like, it was wild. So I just, Tyrone Tracy's fine. He's got a little Tiki Barber in him. Seems like he's going to be fumbling. He has an issue going on, but he's not going to get benched because of that. Singletary came in and vultured another touchdown, which is annoying if you're rostering Tyrone Tracy, but it is what it is. I mean, this offense is just not going to be humming under Tommy DeVito. I think it'd be a little bit better under Drew Lock, but probably not a ton. So it's Tracy, it's Neighbors. I think everything else is an injury, a super deep league, a bye week. Those are I mean, even like Darius Slayton had a little time there, and he was splitting snaps with Jalen Hyatt. So more rotation between those guys. We're down to Neighbors and Tracy only.
I mean, if you're super desperate, Wandale, if you want 10 points, like that's kind of his ceiling, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's been tough sledding. Wandale was a guy who I really liked early in the season. I have him in a lot of leagues. He was kind of my darling after week 1, and it just doesn't think, I don't think he has the ceiling quite
well,
anymore.
Tracy is getting a lot of what he was getting in the receiving game, to start the season when he's getting like 13 targets. They're giving those to Tracy now. So, he's okay. Like you said, a fill-in for an injury or a super deep league as a third wideout, but not a guy you want to start if you can avoid it.
Agreed with you there. Let's go ahead and move forward to Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Detroit Lions win 24-6 against the Colts. The Lions held the ball for 37 minutes in this one, really controlled the time of possession. Lions, the stars for them did show up big. Jahmyr Gibbs, 24.9 fantasy points. David Montgomery, 16.3 fantasy points. Amon-Ra St. Brown got it done once again. However, another big dud for Sam Laporta, 3 for 19 on 6 targets. I've tried to defend this guy and saying, hey, maybe he's just going through a slump. Maybe he can get it together rest of the way. I think this is just the new reality of Sam Laporta. Maybe it was just a really big rookie year, and we ranked him a little too high coming into this 2024 season. Where do you rank Laporta among tight ends rest of the season, Boggs?
Yeah, he's at the end of the tight end 1 section. I mean, there's like 4 that are dependable, and then it's a big, mess behind those guys. So, not very high. And I think, in a dynasty league, you want to hold on to Laporta or you want to go buy Laporta because this is the buy low time. This is where his value is lowest. But for the rest of this season, if you're rostering him in a redraft, I mean, whatever, you can dump him. If you think there's somebody better, he's been bad enough so many weeks in a row now that, he is 100% touchdown dependent, and most tight ends are outside of those big guys. So, yeah, we can be done with him. Deepak did send us some notes, and he said about Monty that it looks not too bad. So let me pull him up. Comment suggests he would have been able to return. Low concern for week 13. That was his exact word. So hopefully we get Monty back. But if not, it's going to be wheels up for Gibbs. He'll have a huge week. So, I mean, the Lions are the Lions. They continue to impress. I think this was Amon-Ra's first game without a touchdown since for a little bit here. So, the Lions are good. Rinse and repeat. Sam Laporta is disappointing. Rinse and repeat. Outside of that, they're all pretty solid.
Yeah, Montgomery came out and told Colton Pouncey of The Athletic that Dan Campbell pulled him aside and said, quote, they're bigger fish to fry and that he will be ready to go on Thursday. With that being said, what we're hearing from Deepak as well, are you wasting a roster spot on someone like Craig Reynolds as an insurance option in case Monty doesn't go, or would you just find a different option elsewhere?
I think I'd find a different option. I think Monty will be fine.
Okay. Also in this game, Boggs, we had Indianapolis wide receiver Josh Downs. He left with a shoulder injury. He had 7 targets before exiting the game. We also saw Michael Pittman Jr. in and out, and it's kind of been his entire season. Are you taking a look at A.D. Mitchell or Alec Pierce?
I mean, they are interesting, but we saw another dud from Richardson, right? 11 for 28, 172 yards. He ran 10 times for 61 yards. Pittman was the only one here to have a good game for this offense, which sucks. I mean, because we have Downs, we have Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
There are weapons in this offense. So Mitchell is interesting in his super deep league, but probably not going to draw too much interest unless Downs is going to miss some decent time. And Deepak says about this, video suggests an AC joint sprain. Most of these are short-term absences, if any, hard to know the severity yet. So he said he'll know more after the MRI tomorrow, of course. So, but it doesn't look to be too bad with down. So I'm probably leaving those guys on the wire because Rich is not throwing the ball well still. It looked
Yeah.
good last week, and we were like, hey, maybe this is getting better. Now they played the Lions here, so that's a tough team to deal with, especially with 37 minutes of possession, like you said. They get New England next week. Maybe it'll be a little bit better. We saw Tua tear them apart. So maybe Rich will be a little bit better next week.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Alec Pierce running wide open down the seam at one point in this, and A-Rich just absolutely missed him. So it's hard to trust really any of these pass catchers. I don't think I want to get invested in. Dude, it's even hard to trust Jonathan Taylor right now. 11 for 35, no receptions, good for 3.5 fantasy points. He's averaging 8.4 points per game over the past month. As someone who has an absolute ton of JT shares, I'm getting nervous riding him down the stretch. Do you feel similar, Boggs?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not so much nervous about riding Jonathan Taylor down the stretch in that I just, sometimes there are going to be terrible game scripts for them, down the stretch here, like this game against Detroit. New England, they should be fine. I think we'll see a healthy dose of Jonathan Taylor. They won't hold the ball for only 23 minutes, right? They won't get down super early, most likely. And they'll be able to run the ball. But this was just a perfect storm of misery for Jonathan Taylor. It was Rich is not playing, he's not playing well. So they stack the box. They don't have the ball a lot. They have to pass to play comeback. It's just not good. So I do think that it will be better than this for most weeks moving forward. And I'm still going to be okay with Taylor, but I understand the frustration for sure. No doubt.
Yeah, he let me down in some big leagues. I just need double digits from him, man. I just need double digits. I don't need to reinvent the wheel or anything. Let's move forward though. In Houston, maybe the surprise score of the day. The Titans beat the Texans 32-27. Much to the chagrin of Tennessee Titans fans, though, who are hopefully looking forward to potentially landing that number 1 overall pick. The Titans, they did hold Ben Slowick's offense to 260 total yards. On the bright side, CJ Stroud had his first game with 2 touchdowns since all the way back in week 6. Nico Collins, 20.2 fantasy points. Could have been an even bigger day, but some penalties caught up with him once again. Tank Dell, 10.2 fantasy points for him as well. And then the Texans, they couldn't really get anything going. Joe Mixon being held to just 22 yards on the ground, 14 carries. Boggs, I was on the record saying earlier this week, Joe Mixon is my running back 1 rest of season. Was I wrong in my analysis, or was this just a weird game for Mixon? He still saved fantasy managers with 9.4 fantasy points due to his receptions.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could have just split a little bit of last week with this week and sprinkled it around and made it a little bit more even. But, I mean, look, I think we saw a couple things here. The first thing was that the Houston defense played Charmin soft. I mean, if you're letting Will Levis gash you and Chigakonkwo run for a 70-yard touchdown and show that explosion they hadn't really showed this year, it was just surprising. Like you said, a surprising result here. Obviously, some stuff taken away from Nico with the penalties. That's 2 weeks in a row that it's happened. It happened with Josh Downs too, who we just got done talking about as well. He had like 3 catches and 50-something yards called back on penalties. It's frustrating. I almost wish we didn't know those numbers. I would rather not see them so they don't make me mad. You know what I mean? But I watched the Nico one where he scored on it, and then they called it back for an illegal formation, whatever nonsense. It was upsetting. I think Mixon's going to be fine. I do, Stroud has been not great this year, and I don't know that is going to change. So
that line's so bad, dude. I don't know what happened to it. It felt like, when you have Tunsil on the outside, you can kind of build around that. It just is falling flat.
I think this week, Tavondre Sweat happened to it. I don't know if you saw him. That's my boy from Texas.
Yes, sir.
He was moving people. So, and Jeffrey Simmons is a beast in there. This defense, new coaching staff in here, they're starting to figure things out. They're starting to get it together a little bit. And Will Levis just looked improved, and he took what they gave him, and the playmakers made plays. So impressive win from the Titans here. And Tony Pollard went nuts with a huge game with no Tyjae Spears, which was nice. Yep. We saw Ridley in there. Nick Westbrook-Akine, he has 7 touchdowns in 7 of 11 games this year and 6 of his last 7.
Yes.
So the dude he's Chris Carter right now. All he does is catch touchdowns. So yeah, it's the Tennessee Titans aren't a dead offense anymore. They have pieces that are viable, it seems, and looks like we're looking to start people against Houston. That's Jacksonville next week. Maybe a running back from there, Brian Thomas, I guess, maybe Evan Ingram. But yeah, it's this Texans defense has got to get back. I thought it was because Will Anderson was missing. Will Anderson played today. He had 2 sacks. He was good. So it's not that the back end has been getting torched.
Well, that what has changed for Tennessee, you think, over the last couple of weeks? Because Levis pretty dog crap in the early parts of the season, sacked 7 times in the first half of this game, but he still threw for 278 yards, 2 touchdowns on 24 attempts. So not having a ton of volume to work with, but still he's being more efficient. Or do you think it's just this offensive line?
Pick 6, didn't he?
Yeah, like classic.
I mean, it's he just made throws today. I think that was the biggest thing, was that the coverage was bad from Houston, and he made the throws that he needed to make for them to win this game. And the Texans should have had this game. Fairburn didn't he miss 2 kicks, or he at least missed 1? So it's just everything not adding together for Houston in this game, even though they were at home. So tough loss for the Texans. Nico looked good. Ridley seems viable. Pollard looked good. So at least we saw some offense. So
yeah, Pollard has to be one of the steals of draft season, right? Looking back, I mean, this guy's been a low-key good RB1 this season. And
when Spears is out, he's great. But when Spears is back in, they're back and forth. And next week, it was a concussion. True. It wasn't a season-long thing. Spears should be back. They're playing Washington. So let's see what that break looks like. But when Spears is not in there, he is a featured back. They gave him a ton of touches today. What was it? It was 27 touches in this game.
Yeah,
that will help. That will help Will Levis. If you have a good running back, it helps everything. So everything working for Tennessee today. Even Will Levis, in not a great game, still pulled out a win.
Yeah. And if you want a chance to win a signed Josh Allen's Bills helmet for free, courtesy of our friends over at pristineauction.com, all you need to do is head to fantasypros.com/contest, complete the form, and either A, download the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard app, B, leave a review for this podcast, or C, follow us on X, Instagram, or TikTok at Fantasy Pros. The more actions you complete, the more entries you'll receive. We will be announcing a winner right here on the podcast. So if you're watching here on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to claim your prize. Oh man, Josh Allen sign out. I need to get one of those. That's a good one, man. Like, everyone loves Josh Allen, right? Like, unless you're a Chiefs fan, does anyone hate Josh Allen?
I mean, I don't hate Josh Allen, but he has smoked us in the playoffs. So, probably arrived just in time to watch us lose by 30 to the Bills. So
true. Very, very good point. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us, and make sure you guys are getting invested with that Josh Allen Bills helmet giveaway. I want to see someone from this very live stream win it. So make sure you guys are going over there, fantasypros.com/contest, complete that form, do one of those 3 things we need you to do, and we'll get you entered over there. Let's go ahead and move forward to South Beach, where the Dolphins improved to 5-6 with a 34-15 win against the New England Patriots. New England's offensive line, they were totally overwhelmed in this game. Their offense as a whole held to just 269 total yards. Drake May sacked 4 times, did save managers late to get him to 13.5 fantasy points. Demario Douglas got to double-digit points, but bad games from Ramondre Stevenson, 8 for 13 on the ground. And I've been kind of quietly shouting the name Kayshon Boutte the last couple weeks. He's been getting 6+ targets in multiple weeks now, just 1 reception for 6 yards. Are we kind of back to the point where we're not trusting anyone aside from May and Pop Douglas the rest of the way? And you could throw out Ramondre if you need to start it at RB2 and just kind of cross your fingers?
Yeah, I mean, this game was particularly bad because it got down so quick, right? Really quick scoring from Miami. And I think it was 31-7 at one point, or at least 24-7 for a big chunk of this game. And your boy, Chop Robinson, getting in there a couple times. Looking good, a first rounder out of Penn State. So, but yeah, I mean, Stevenson had a miserable game, 10 touches for 13 yards is awful. And especially this Miami defense, I wouldn't say is special. It's fine. I would say they're probably league average. So to have this terrible performance was just not good. And they need playmakers bad. I mean, you're right. Butte is getting some targets, but Douglas had 5 for 62. Douglas in May are about it. Even Hunter Henry, like he had 8 targets, 5 catches for 44 yards, but Hooper caught the touchdown, right? So they're kind of splitting those guys up a little bit more, although it is way more heavily shaded towards Henry, but you're not going to get too many better matchups for the tight end in this game. And, Hooper scored the touchdown. They both had about 50 yards. So a little disappointing there.
Talk about a team that needs to get to the number 1 overall pick and get someone like Travis Hunter in that building, right? I mean, you imagine?
Somebody, Luther Burden,
Anybody.
Ted. Yeah. They just need somebody to catch the ball and run with it, please. Yes.
Miami's offense, though, brilliant in this one. Actually pulled their starters early in the fourth quarter before putting them back in after a fumble went back the other way. 2 touchdowns, 20.6 fantasy points for Devon Achane. He's looked brilliant. Jalen Waddle, 9 targets, 8 receptions, 144 yards, and 1 touchdown. Shout out to Erickson and the Welsh. They were all over him this week.
I text Welsh. I was like, did you ladder bet this again? He's like, yes, sir. So I was like, and that was when he had 55. So I know those guys were very, very happy today.
Yeah, make sure you guys are checking out the Betting Pros Prop Betting Show. I believe that drops on Fridays, and it's just a wealth of knowledge and also a lot of fun. And yeah, shout out to those guys for being all over Jalen Waddle for his breakout game of the season. But Jonnu Smith, maybe the real storyline in this game, caught 9 of 11 targets for 87 yards and a touchdown. He has now scored over 52 fantasy points in the last 2 weeks combined. Where are you ranking Jonnu Smith rest of the season? Above Sam Laporta?
Yes, for sure. I mean, he's probably, I said there's the top 4, right? It's Kittle, McBride, Bowers, and Kelsey. Yeah. So those that might want to put Jonnu Smith and Noah Gray up there with their recent performance.
Yeah.
So Jonnu, I mean, just, ever since Tua came back, he is open all the time. He's 7-11. So it's been great for Tua, and it was awesome here today for Tua and his 4 scores. So
do you think this is just a situation that defenses can't really game plan for Smith because they're focused on Hill, they're focused on Waddle, they're focused on Achane out of the backfield?
It's a track meet. They're all fast. Yeah. All those guys are, even for a tight end, Jonnu is very fast. So, yeah, I mean, it's speed, and speed. So that's what Miami does, and they won today with speed.
And it's been a couple like down years for John, who he was pretty decent last year in Atlanta with Arthur Smith. But when he went to New England, it felt like he was kind of just fell out of order there. But if you remember him back in Tennessee, the dude was a weapon there when Ryan Tannehill was slinging it around the yard. So
yeah. I mean, he always, he's athletic. He's a receiving tight end, so he's limited in terms of snaps for a lot of teams. But this is a perfect fit for him because of the speed element. He's going to beat those linebackers. He's going to box out a corner or a safety. So if they pass as much as they do, and you're worried about Tyreek burning you deep, you're worried about Waddle taking one short and going the distance. Right. Somebody's got to be open, like you said, Seth, and that is Jonnu right now. It's working.
We saw another upset in the nation's capital where the Cowboys beat the Commanders 34-26. This was an insane game that featured a potentially game-tying 86-yard touchdown catch by Terry McLaurin with 21 seconds left just to have the extra point missed. If I learned anything this weekend across all levels of football, Boggs, it's that special teams matter. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude, I put that exact thing in my group me with on my Patreon. I said special teams matter. We saw so many because Turpin returned the score here too. I mean, this was I don't know if you remember this game. I believe it was between the Saints and the Jaguars. God, I can't remember what year it was, but the Saints came all the way back, scored a touchdown to tie it, and then shanked the extra point and lost that game. And I think they lost their playoff chances too. It was just an insane game. This game didn't have that much on the line, but same type of finish. Just I'm getting eerie flashbacks of sitting in a bar and watching that game. So that was pretty long ago. I'm pretty sure there were people smoking cigarettes at that bar. So, But yeah, I mean, this was a wild game. Like I said, imagine having the under and then watching the fourth quarter where they scored like 41 points or whatever it was. This was a crazy game. We saw a lot of injuries here too. Brian Robinson left and came back. Eckler with a concussion. So what Deepak had said here is that Brian Robinson videos concerning for a high ankle mechanism being able to return initially is reassuring because it suggests there was no fracture on the x-ray. These do tend to swell up and may have been the reason for him missing the end of the game. In most cases, this would cause an absence of at least week 13. So Eckler, he said most concussed players miss 1 week, return the following. So week 13 is possible, depending on obviously the protocol process.
I will say about Eckler, second concussion this season. He got one back in September. He did go to the hospital for further testing. So with that being said, what commie running back are you prioritizing off the waivers? We have Jeremy McNichols and then Chris Rodriguez Jr., who was a dynasty sleeper just a few seasons ago.
Yeah, Chris Rodriguez, I appreciate. He's a hard runner, but it's McNichols. He's the guy that had a helmet today and got in after Brian Robinson was out. So he'll probably split those guys if both these dudes miss. But I think McNichols is your lead guy. But that's easily a hot hand situation.
Sure.
So,
sure.
We don't have bye weeks next week because of Thanksgiving. So, you should have enough guys where you don't need to start somebody. But if you do, McNichols will be the guy.
Yeah, Jeremy McNichols, or McNipples as I call him. 30.4 fantasy points for Jaden Daniels, 7 for 74 and 1 rushing the ball, and then 275, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions through the air. What did you notice out of the Commanders' quarterback and offense as a whole in this loss, Boggs?
They were miserable until the fourth quarter. They were not good. And I even got a text from my buddy CK, who also works here at Fantasy Pros, and he hit me with what is up with the passing of Washington and Daniels right now? Because, you look on Twitter, you see everyone, he's trying to hand the rookie of the year to Bo Nix right now with all these bad weeks, but they have played some monster defensive lines, and the Cowboys, for all their faults, the defensive line is great when Micah Parsons is healthy.
Oh yeah.
He was healthy today. So, Philly the week before, Pittsburgh the week before that, and I can't remember who it was the week before that. But yeah, they have played some brutal defensive lines here. I think that has been the issue because there's still, that O-line's still a little patchwork. It's worked so far this season, but it still needs probably a hole or two filled. So I think we're seeing a little bit of that, but when the defensive line got tired and the O-line started working them, we saw some decent passes. And the nice thing about having a guy like Terry McLaurin is you can throw it short and watch him run at 86 yards. So we just need to get the ball into McLaurin's hands, I think, a little bit more for this offense.
Agreed. Also, kind of on that note as well, I think Noah Brown, maybe he could be someone, if you're in a deeper league, that you might be wanting to look at. 10 targets for him. He has seen 6+ targets in 5 out of the last 7 games, double-digit points in 3 out of the last 5 as well. I think you should potentially be looking at someone like Noah Brown if you need some help in deeper leagues. And don't forget to not miss out on snagging potential difference makers like him. Use our waiver assistant at fantasypros.com/myplaybook or on the Fantasy Football My Playbook app to instantly view suggestions on who you should add and who you should drop. It told me a couple weeks ago, don't go be adding Kayshon Boutte. It's not going to help you. I said, hey, I'm going to trust the process, and I should have trusted My Playbook app. So make sure you guys are checking out the waiver assistant over there. Still in this game, though, I did want to talk about Dallas. 10 for 67 for CeeDee Lamb on 13 targets. Boggs, Schoonmaker, he finds the end zone on 55 yards. Rico Dowdle handles 19 carries for 86 yards. Was this just a get-up spot, or do we expect some similar results for Dallas on Thanksgiving against the New York Giants?
Yeah, I think they're better than what they showed the first 2 weeks with Cooper Rush. Still not dependable, I'll say. Lamb is fine. Who are you starting over Lamb is my question.
He's a low wide receiver one probably rest of the way.
Yep. He's still an automatic start, even with Cooper Rush. If you get down to Trey Lance or something, then maybe we'll talk. But with Cooper Rush, I think he's fine. Dowdle is getting the touches, not the greatest in the world, kind of a jag running back, but he is their main running back right now. He's definitely better than Zeke. So he's their guy for now. So he's getting a decent amount of touches. I don't know if I like anybody else. And I'm a Tolbert stan. I really do like him. He led them in snaps today too, 64 of 66, which was great. Got in the end zone, which is great, but 2 for 22. If he doesn't get that touchdown, he's doing nothing for you. So he's a gamble if you start him specifically with Cooper Rush. I would have felt way better with him getting those type of targets with Dak. But
agreed.
Yeah, this is another offense that is tough with a backup quarterback. So it's CeeDee Lamb, it's Rico Dowdle, and it's probably nobody else. I mean, if you want, I think I might rather start Kevontae Turpin every once in a while just to see if he gets a kick return, or they should be throwing him more screen passes and putting him in reverses and stuff. For God's sake. I mean, just give him the ball a little bit more. Obviously, he's electric when he touches it.
It was another heartbreaker for Bears fans in the Windy City as Chicago falls to the Vikings 30-27 in overtime. We had a Keenan Allen legacy game today, probably on most people's benches like mine. 9 for 86 and 1 on 15 targets. DJ Moore 7 for 106 and 1 on 7 targets. Saw him work out of the backfield quite a bit once again this past week. Feels like that's a new wrinkle we're getting with the new offensive coordinator. Roma Dunze 5 for 39 on 10 targets. Was this just an outlier game for Chicago with 47 passing attempts from Williams, or is this something we can maybe expect down the stretch? Up until this point, we really didn't want to start any Bears outside of DeAndre Swift, and if you needed a spot start for Roschon and trying to get yourself in the end zone.
I think it's probably more of an aberration than it is going to be the constant here for the Bears, but I mean, they got down fast, right? And they had to pass to catch up, and they did. They got it all the way to overtime, which was awesome to see for them. And, just to get Moore and Allen back more involved. And even though Dunze had 10 targets, now, they're Caleb Williams targets. So I would love to see the catchable targets number here for some of these guys, especially with, Keenan with 15. But I do think there's a little, they gave Swift and Roschon the same amount of snaps at the goal line, but I just who is more likely to score? I think that's shifting more towards Roschon. So, Roschon is like, if you have nobody else, maybe he gets in the end zone with a touchdown. Right now, DeAndre Swift is your yardage guy still, which is nice. I do think you're not going to have to play Minnesota every week. You're not going to be forced with that high passing volume every single week. So, hopefully it gets better for the Bears offense, but I don't think they're going to pass 47 times, many more times. So I think this is probably an outlier week.
Agreed with you there. On the other side of the ball, quiet game for Justin Jefferson, but massive games from Jordan Addison, 8 for 162 and 1 touchdown. TJ Hawkinson, 7 for 114. He has looked awesome since he's come back off that ACL. And Aaron Jones, 19.9 fantasy points. What's sticky here in Minnesota, Boggs?
I think Addison is, and I've always loved the talent of Jordan Addison. I mean, this dude got Kenny Pickett drafted in the first round, right? Like that's how good he is. So went to USC and was amazing there. Just one of the better wide receivers in the country. Undersized, so people didn't really like him as much as some of the other guys. I thought it was laughable that Quentin Johnson was going over him, but I like Jordan Addison. I think he fits perfectly in here, especially with Jefferson on the other side, right? Jefferson takes away, they roll coverage towards him. So you're going to get Addison in a lot of one-on-ones, and Sam Darnold starting to take advantage of it. Touchdowns in 3 of the last 4 games for Addison. So I do think that is very sticky. I was confused by the last couple weeks of usage for Aaron Jones and Cam Akers, because it looked like it was like 2/3 to Jones and 1/3 to Akers. Then it was closer to split last week. And this week they're like, screw Cam Akers. We're going all towards Aaron Jones, which is nice if you're rostering Aaron Jones. But I was surprised because they had been more going towards Akers. And you said it, man. I mean, I think 2 out of the 3 weeks that Hawkinson has come back, he's had 9 targets. So, yeah, I think Hawkinson is wheels up on him for sure. He's moving himself closer to that, trustable tier every single week, and he is a stud.
I think the thing about this Minnesota offense is it is looking better with Hawkinson. I think he's opening things up a bit, but also at the same time, I think there's going to be somewhat of a revolving door where someone each week's going to get left out. most likely. You just kind of have to go through those tough bumps. This week it was Justin Jefferson. Next week it will probably not be him, but it could be Jordan Addison or TJ Hawkinson. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is a good offense. We have started to see Sam Darnold slow down and regress back to, the old Sam Darnold so far this season, but still very capable. And we know what KOC can do. So trust the process there. Let's round out the early window in Charlotte, where the Chiefs, they survived the Panthers 30-27. Kansas City's offense showed up, but their defense was suspect at best in this one, allowing the Panthers 334 total yards, 28.8 fantasy points for Patrick Mahomes, the best game of his season by far. 6 for 62 for Travis Kelce. Worthy 4 for 46. Hopkins found the back of the end zone on 5 receptions for 15 yards. But Noah Gray might be the headline here for me. Second straight game with 2+ touchdowns. Saved me in the Scott Fish Bowl. I had everybody on bye. I had T. Higgins on bye. I had both Olave and Kamara out. I had Brock Purdy out. I was hurt. I said, give me Noah Gray, a guy I think could go catch a touchdown. And he does it twice in this one. Is there anything sticky here with Noah Gray? At least from I know in dynasty leagues he should obviously be rostered, but in a tight end premium league, is he someone maybe worth throwing on the bench?
Yeah, he definitely is. I mean, he had 26 routes run. The guys that had more routes run than him were Kelce, Worthy, and Watson. That's it. So Hopkins didn't, Juju didn't, Hardman definitely didn't. So yeah, I think Kelce, he's involved, or excuse me, Gray is involved in this gameplay. I can't get them mixed up because they look like the same guy. I mean, even you heard the announcer say, I had to make sure I had the right number on that play. And I love the Talladega Nights meme that people are sending. It's the one where Cal Naughton Jr. has moved in with Ricky Bobby's wife. And it says Noah Gray, and this is Travis Kelce coming in. Thanks for dropping by for a visit, Ricky. It looks like he's taken that Kelce role a little bit, but it's just whoever's open. That's who Patrick Mahomes is going to throw it to. And look, the reason that Patrick Mahomes had a good game here is because they needed him to, because the offense for Carolina finally clicked, and that was great to see. So I think the other thing that I see here with this Chiefs offense is that if they just cut P. Ryan and Steele kind of out of this offense when Pacheco comes back, there's a decent amount there for him. 24 snaps for P. Ryan, 11 for Steele. They ran 24 routes, so that's 35 snaps and 24 routes available. So I do think that Pacheco coming back, especially after them going, let's pump the brakes and wait one more week. If they decide to just put him in kind of like we saw with McCaffrey, I don't know if he'll get that. And I expect these guys to be involved a little bit, but I would say, 10 to 12 touches in the first game back wouldn't be crazy to expect. I don't think this would be like Jonathan Brooks, who only had 5 snaps in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my thing about, just kind of wrap up on the Chiefs offense and Noah Gray, is I think realistically, aside from Kelce, Worthy, and Hopkins, he is the next best pass catcher in this offense, right? I don't think McCole Hardman has much left in the tank if he ever did. Juju, he had that one game where it was a renaissance. We hit all those alternative overs. That was awesome.
That was, I think, against the Saints, and they've been bad against the slot receiver the whole year.
Yeah, so it's just it's and Justin Watson is not good either. No offense to Justin.
He's a pass block. He's a run blocker. I mean, so he's in there to run block. That's what he does most of the time. And then they'll feed him because he does his job well every once in a while. But that is his role. Kind of LJ Humphrey in Denver, same deal. You're a big bodied guy there to push around a corner. That's why you're there.
Speaking of the Panthers and Jonathan Brooks, slow start to his career, just 2 carries, 7 yards. Before we get into the full Carolina offense, is this just a lost season for fantasy managers of the former Texas Longhorn here? And I know obviously a lot of people spent 6th to 8th round picks on Brooks in redraft, and dynasty he was going end of the first round, early second round of rookie drafts. Is this just hey, we're kind of waving the white flag, trying to do what Kirk Cignetti was doing yesterday on the goal line, and Ohio State just had to, be real jerks to him and myself on that one.
Yeah, I figured that would come up at some point in the show today.
I've been reeling, Boggs. We'll talk more about it on the college football show this week. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, look, I think the thing with Brooks was, I don't think a bigger Longhorns fan than I am, and I wasn't taking him anywhere. And it wasn't because he's not talented. It's because Like, okay, we're going to wait till week 10. Then what does he come back? Week 11? Well, he came back week 12. And then he came back to 5 snaps, not 5 touches, 5 snaps. So what is that going to expand to next week? 10 snaps and 5 touches? Maybe it gets just to be way better and they didn't see themselves, that they were in the game the whole time here. So maybe that was the thing. Like maybe next week when they're playing and they get down like we expect them to, they're playing Tampa Bay, then maybe we see more Brooks, right? And maybe he's viable at that point. But this was not, the plan obviously was much fewer looks than we expected. And the game flow of this there wasn't a good spot to get him in. So Chuba's the guy there for the rest of the season. And I think he's a start most weeks.
Yeah, and he got that contract too. So for Dynasty, he we might be looking at a 50-50 split next season. What do you make of the Carolina passing attack? No Jalen Coker. He was sidelined in this one. So David Moore saw more snaps, 6 for 81 and 1 on 10 targets. Xavier Legette, he did get his 4 for 56. Thielen, 3 for 57. Is it just kind of a weird thing with David Moore? Like, hey, he made his one spot count. And I think we can keep rolling Legette out as a flex if we need him.
I would expect that with Coker back, that Moore is the odd man out here because Legette, they spent a high pick on Thielen and was their big signing. So like, I think that, yeah, but I don't know. Maybe we see more of a rotation because David Moore has had a good week here and he's been contributing the last couple weeks while Thielen was out. So maybe we get more of a rotation here, but I just think the most positive thing to see was Bryce Young make some plays on the run, make some plays from the pocket, not turn the ball over a million times. That was all positive to see from Bryce Young. So if we can get, this offense moving forward a little bit, maybe it'll make some of these guys more trustable. Unfortunately, Jatavian Sanders was a guy I was looking forward to, seeing for the rest of the season here. And he had the unfortunate neck injury. He was released from the hospital.
Yes.
Didn't get a note about him from Deepak, but we'll see what they have to say about him. I would expect he's going to miss a little bit of time, if not more than that, with this neck injury because he was carted off and taken to the hospital. So, but I mean, it was just very positive to see Bryce Young put in a position to make some plays and keep the Panthers in the game and make it competitive against a world-class team here. So that was nice to see, and hopefully we see more of that moving forward.
Agreed. And as you mentioned, shout out to Jatavian Sanders, T's and P's to him and his family. Glad to hear he was released from the hospital. Always a very scary sight for football fans. You and I know that firsthand, following the Ryan Shazier story as close as we did. So happy that things are working out there for Sanders. He's a talented rookie who, if you have him in a dynasty league, keep holding the faith, man, and he could have a very big second season. Let's go ahead and shift to Las Vegas, where the Broncos, they come away with the win 29-19. Bo Nix continues to do his thing, 273 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Hasn't been involved as much on the ground, but he's been slinging the ball around the yard quite nicely. And nobody on this team or in the NFL is benefiting more than Courtland Sutton. I mean, this guy, 8 for 97, 2 touchdowns. It feels like he has spider webs on his hands right now. He's catching everything coming his way. And Devon Vele also kind of showing up here now as well. We've been waiting. We've been waiting for someone. Would it be Troy Franklin? Would it be Marvin Mims Jr.? It looks like it's Devon Vele, former Utah wide receiver, if I'm right on that. 6 for 80 on 9 targets. What do you think of this Denver passing game, man? They're figuring it out.
Working.
I love to see it.
Well, 2 things. Number 1, they played the Raiders. So
yeah.
Take everything with a grain of salt there. Raiders are not very good. But, I mean, Bo Nix has looked good for most of this season. He has been much better than anticipated, and he has been lifting these guys around him, as you mentioned, in Sutton. We're kind of waiting for a second target to emerge, and maybe it is Vele, right? 9 targets, 6 catches, 80 yards, as you mentioned, just seeing a lot of the field as well. So that's been nice. I tell you what hasn't been is this musical chairs at running back that Sean Payton keeps messing with. Because I thought, man, I think they're playing the Raiders. They're going to get up. I think we're going to see Estime a decent amount in this game. Homie had 5 snaps and 3 touches, excuse me. Just they're not doing anything with him. McLaughlin led them in rush attempts here or I guess Javonte did, but he had 8 for -2 yards.
Yeah.
McLaughlin had 7 for 44. So that was when I don't know. I just this, and it was still Javonte. Javonte 38 snaps, Jaleel 20. Estimate 5, and the fullback had more than estimate. Michael Burton had 8 snaps. So they're just trying to find some room to run, and they can't find it, which means Bo Nix is going to be throwing it a lot. If you can't run against the Raiders, what are you doing? So, yeah, I think that Bo Nix is going to be a pretty good quarterback moving forward here. And like you said, Cortland Sutton is a very safe start, where we weren't saying that about 6 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, I think we touched on it 2 weeks ago when I was on the show with you. Like he's a high to mid end wide receiver 2, and now he's kind of showing low end wide receiver 1 numbers. So yeah, whoever held the faith there, congratulations, because Sutton's been unbelievable. Bo Nix still, I think a rock solid low end quarterback 1 rest of the way as well. Looking at the Raiders side of things. Can we get the ball to Dylan Lau? This guy is electric. I just want
Dude,
to.
I want Lobby to get the ball so much, but it's, they gave him a kick return. We heard this week, he's going to be way more involved in the game plan. Now, that was from a beat writer. It wasn't from, the horse's mouth. So, I guess we listened at our own demise here. He didn't get a snap on offense.
Sincere McCormick,
Sincere McCormick, the pride of UTSA, but he only had 8 snaps. It was 69 of 77 snaps went to Amir Abdullah in this game. He ran 47 routes. Amir Abdullah did in this game. So they played musical chairs at quarterback again, benching Minshew for the 11th time or whatever this season.
I think Minshew might have got hurt. I don't.
Is that what it was?
I think he did get banged up. I think that's why
it doesn't matter. They're miserable. Everything's bad there. I mean, it was nice that Jacoby Myers got back involved, and we still had a high target volume for Brock Bowers. So those are the things you can count on in Vegas. Nothing else. The run game is a joke. I wish we would see Lobby. Like you said, why do you draft him? You draft him to let him run one time. TJ Watt stripped the ball from him. He stripped the ball from better players than Dylan Lobby. So give him another shot, for God's sake. Don't let him just return kicks. He had a helmet. So I don't know why he wasn't involved more. But yeah, it was a nice game for Jacoby Myers. 15 targets, 10 catches, 121 yards. They were losing this whole game. Bowers had 10 targets, only 4 catches for 38 yards. I mean, the Broncos have a really good defense. They said, you were going to beat us with anybody else but Brock Bowers. And they couldn't. Yeah. They couldn't do it. So, like you said, Sincere McCormick got involved here. I don't know what's happening there. I can't wait till next year when they have a new head coach and hopefully a new quarterback as well.
If Amir Abdullah does get the start again next week and we see Alexander Madison out, we see Zamir White out, can we start him based on what the route? I mean, he looked good in this one. 5 for 37, 1 through the air. Didn't do much on the ground. 8 for 28. But that's kind of Amir Abdullah's bag, right? Like he's a pass catcher.
Well, they play the Chiefs, so that's the Friday. That's the Amazon game. So. I mean, you can if you have somebody like
I got dunked on today. I picked up Laub earlier this week. I didn't play him, but I had him on my bench, and the guy I was playing against, he picked up Amir and started him on me. So
I mean, that should have been closer, but obviously Lobby didn't play. So yeah, I think Amir Abdullah is an okay start because of volume, but he is very, very touchdown dependent.
Yeah, certainly. Let's go ahead. Let's move to Seattle, where the Seahawks, they win 16-6 over the Cardinals. Shout out Geno Smith down the stretch in this game. It wasn't the greatest game for him. He was under pressure, had 5 sacks, had a turnover. But I felt like under pressure, this guy just continued to deliver. Had some strikes to DK Metcalf, 459 for Metcalf. JSN continues to be an absolute revelation this season. 6 for 77 and 1. Boggs, I mean, we're at the point now where if you go to the FantasyPros.com leaderboard, JSN's a wide receiver 1 on the season. He was coming into this week a wide receiver 1. Only person who scored more than him over the past month was Jamar Chase in fantasy points per game. I mean, is this what we can expect from JSN the rest of the way, man? Oh, my goodness.
I don't know why it would change. It's working, right? And, Tyler Lockett is done. I think that's kind of, the more we see it, the more it becomes obvious. JSN is a 7-Eleven. He's always open, right? So it's nice to see him finally getting volume over the last month and becoming the wide receiver 1. This is kind of what we expected eventually for him, and we're seeing it. So that's really, really nice. So Yeah, and DK Metcalf is still the big play guy. Didn't have one in this game, so whatever. He's going to be fine. Gino, I mean, I don't know. Half the time I'm watching Gino, I go, man, this guy really has it. And then half the time I watch him, I go, I wonder what Sam Howell would look like in this offense. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't instill a ton of confidence with me, but 22 of 31, 254,
it's the job done.
Touchdown. Yeah, he took 5 sacks though. He threw a bad one across his body. Like he just makes these terrible decisions in important moments, which make you question whether he's going to be able to keep starting there. But he does, and my boy Kenneth Walker still had 90 yards in this game, so decent there. Still a high volume guy. I would like to see Charbonnet get more, but not at the cost of Ken Walker. So you're gonna have to stay as just a handcuff, Charbonnet. So, but yeah, this Seattle offense is nice, and they had a nice game here as well.
Yeah, Ryan Grubb, dude. I mean, that was really why I was drafting so much JSN and just Seahawks players in general, is because I believe in this guy, man. He made Washington look extremely great last season. Got 3 wide receivers drafted in the first 2 days, and Michael Penix, of course, the top 10 pick as well. So shout out Ryan Grubb, shout out to the Seattle Seahawks offense. The Cardinals offense, so this has been a roller coaster. It is every other week. We see Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler Murray go off, and then the next week, it's 285 yards for Kyler Murray, no touchdowns, an interception, barely any rushing. I mean, what do we make of this, man? Like Trey McBride, great game from him, 15 targets to 12 receptions, 133 yards. Still can't find the freaking end zone, though. I mean,
I know.
Touchdown, positive regression is a thing, right? Like this has been proven, and apparently Trey Benson has not read any of those studies.
Hey, look, yeah, I mean, Trey McBride, 15 targets here, 12 catches, 130. I don't care if he gets
in the
Tyler
Warren stat line.
Yeah, he keeps getting the ball. So that's what we care about. Marvin Harrison, another disappointing game. 6 targets, 3 catches, 47 yards is a little bit depressing. I think I was most annoyed by James Conner. 7 rushes for 8 yards. I mean, he had 5 catches for 41.
Saved him,
that guy needs to get into the end zone. He needs more touches than 7 rushes as well. What are you doing? I mean, they just completely abandoned the run in this game. 7 attempts for Connor, 4 for Benson, 1 for DeMarcado, and 2 for Murray. Like, that is not enough rushing attempts. You have to keep at it, especially when it's a close game. Hold the ball. Don't let their offense get momentum. So, I don't know. I didn't like this game plan from Arizona, and it seems like, when the game plan works, Kyler Murray clicks, everything looks good, except for maybe Marvin Harrison. And, they're moving. And when it doesn't work, it looks really bad. And that is what we saw this week. Hopefully we get just a better look from Arizona next week playing against Minnesota. Hopefully make that one into a shootout.
Yeah, and everyone who's like run into the altar saying that Drew Petzing needs a head coaching job, I don't think he does. I mean, based on what we've seen, the usage for Marvin Harrison, like Marvin Harrison's going to finish this season, Boggs, with like 110, 115 targets on the high end.
Yeah, they need to set him up for success more. I know he's like a straight line, deep route runner, but give it to him on a reverse, throw it to him short, get him a screen. Like, let's put the ball in his hand some way and let him be
best dang college football wide receiver that I've probably ever seen in my lifetime. And to see him kind of be mediocre this season, you and I, and I'll take the pie on my face, and I think you can share it with me.
Oh, of course. Every analyst. Yeah.
And I didn't get it to draft him a ton, but I was trading for him a couple weeks ago, and it hasn't been great since. But hey, this is the roller coaster with Drew Petzing, man, and maybe they make
rookies. It's rookies too. Rookies are a roller coaster almost every single year. Like, look at how great Neighbors was, and Neighbors has been pretty mediocre the last couple months. So, I think these guys are going to be okay, but I don't know if it's going to be this season. So it makes them dicey starts.
And before we continue, I did want to remind you, y'all, about the Fantasy Pros Discord community. Chat with other fans and get access to exclusive AMAs to wind up on our podcast feed. Here's our schedule for the rest of the season. On Mondays at 2 Eastern, you can join the Welsh, Joe, Boggs. They're going to be breaking down grievances, take any questions you have as well, rolling into the new week. And then the Welsh and Erickson, they're live on Thursdays at 2 Eastern. Worm and Fitz are at 5 Eastern time on the first Tuesday of each month. And then Fitz and Boggs, they're on on at 5 Eastern on the third Tuesday of each month, breaking down some dynasty, different discussions like that. So great stuff happening over there on the Discord. Make sure you guys are getting in there. Make sure you're getting your questions answered and be on the show at fantasypros.com/chat. Again, that is fantasypros.com/chat. Boggs, I know you guys have just a blast on that show each and every week here from all the loyal listeners out there.
I think we're going to hear a lot of grievances about Marvin Harrison on that show tomorrow as well. So, yeah, it's a fun show. We get to kind of wrap up the week, put a bow on it, make some picks for the following week, and listen to some grievances. And, some people also call to brag. I scored 180 points this week. It's the best week I've ever had, things like that, which you should. Well, where are you going to brag? Where else are you going to brag? If not to the people on Fantasy Pros, of course.
Agreed. And Nick Hughes saying in the chat, what a weird week of NFL football. What a weird week of football. I think we led off the show with that, Nick, because it really, really was, man. And no weirder, probably out there in Lambeau Field. Packers roll the Niners 38-10. Green Bay just kind of doing all the right things right now. Kind of a disappointing game. I think if you rolled out Jordan Love, I think people were expecting a little bit more. Just 23 attempts, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns, though. Josh Jacobs, though, he was eating 106 yards on the ground, 26 carries, 3 touchdowns. I believe he might
be hurt. Yeah. No, I was saying going in, they were like, might be a little banged up. 26 carries, 106 yards and 3 scores. Hopefully he didn't get banged up at the end, did he?
I did get a notification from Sleeper that he did get banged up, but again, they were pretty far ahead in this game, so it's hard to tell if he would have came back in and if they just want to give Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks some run.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it was that. So we'll see. Didn't get a note on Josh Jacobs here, so hopefully he's going to be fine. But the quad thing has bothered him all year. He seems to be questionable and then get 20 carries every week. So.
And I think we're at the same place really where we've been all season, or at least the last 5 or 6 weeks with the Packers pass catchers. You can start Jaden Reed if you want to. It's been really dicey as of late. He hasn't been finding the end zone as much. Tucker Kraft found the end zone once again today on 2 for 26.
That was after the goose egg last week.
So. Yeah. So it's really tough because like Christian Watson, ball hits his hands, touchdown for him. Fantasy.
You mean MVS 2.0? That's exactly what he looked like. Good Lord.
I mean, like you just can't who are you trusting each week in this Packers offense aside from Josh Jacobs, and if you need a start at quarterback, Jordan Love?
I think it's Jacobs. I think I do trust Love. There's obviously other quarterbacks you'd rather have than him, but I think he's fairly trustable. I think most weeks I'm going to roll out Jaden Reed if I'm starting 3 wide receivers. I think he's probably going to be my wide receiver 3, but at this point I am looking at matchups, and if somebody else has a much better matchup, then maybe I'd rather go with them. So, what do you think about Jaden Reed versus Jordan Addison moving forward, with Addison having this huge month here?
Oh man, that's so tough because Reed looked so good early this season, Boggs, but it just
I know, but it's reversed. Who's looked better right now? It's Addison. I think I'd rather start Addison than Jaden Reed. So
conversation.
Yeah, it's at least a conversation. That's exactly right. So, I mean, tough one for the Niners, but Packers, you only get 23 pass attempts because you get up so big, and the Niners just couldn't move the ball until late.
No, I mean, Brandon Allen never, classified a gunslinger or anything like that, but a serviceable backup nonetheless, and didn't really get things going in this one. George Kittle, he caught the touchdown, 6 for 82 and 1. Kittle's been a massive steal for wherever people got him in drafts this season, so congratulations on that. Down day for Debo, 1 for 21 on 4 targets. Didn't see any rushing attempts either.
That surprised me. Like, why not run him a little bit more when you're down a quarterback? Maybe because they just didn't install it and Purdy was hurt in the middle
why not
of the
run Jordan Mason out there more? I mean, 2 for 16 for a guy who was leading the league in rushing at one point this season. Like, I get Christian McCaffrey is, I mean, we're going to look back and say he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, let's just say what it is. But at the same time, coming off the double Achilles tendonitis, I just don't get why Jordan Mason doesn't have more than 2 carries. I mean, he's over there shivering on the sideline, looking like he wants to be anywhere else in there because he's not getting the work. And like, I feel like in this offense now, like you're rolling out CMC, kind of disappointing day for him again, 3 for 37 through the air, 11 for 31. on the ground. You're rolling out Kittle every week. You're rolling out Debo and Jennings. I mean, Jennings or Jaden Reed, 5 for 40 for Jennings, 7 targets. I mean,
Jennings, if Purdy's playing, I would much rather have Jennings, honestly, because he still had 7 targets in this game with Brandon Allen as the quarterback, throwing the ball only 29 times here. So, yeah, I think I'd rather have Jennings right now if Purdy is back up, for sure. I don't even think that's a question.
Yeah. Who do you like the rest of the season better, Jennings or Debo, you think?
I think, and Welsh has been on this as well. I think it's Jennings. I'm going to listen to the Niner fan in that one. I mean, he's getting more first looks. And, Debo is having a frustrating year. And Ayuk was before as well. So it's been a lot of Kittle. It's been a lot of Jordan Mason. And honestly, it's been just a lot of the Niners not having the success that they had last season at all. That is in record and in fantasy. So they're just not as good a team this year as they were last year. So hopefully next week, Purdy's back, Trent Williams is back, and we get the whole lift to the offense here. But they have a brutal schedule down the stretch as well. I believe they play, it's like Detroit and Buffalo and maybe Philly in there or somebody. And it's at least the Rams. I know they get one more time. So not the easiest schedule for the Niners down the stretch either.
No, I think if you have any like Super Bowl tickets on the 49ers, you might as well make a fire this weekend, light them up, and just
wait till the end of the year. Let's wait till the end of the year. The NFC, they might roll through the NFC if they get running. So
maybe, I don't know. I'm a little nervous if I'm a Niners fan.
Oh yeah, Dedris mentioned that Brandon Allen was playing through a broken finger too, that we had no idea about. And I guess he said he had broken it on a hard snap in practice at some point. So very strange. Why was Josh Dobbs not in this game? I don't get it. So
it's tough. Whatever. It's tough out there, but folks, keep the faith. Football is fun. Sports are fun. That's why we do this every single week. That's going to do it for us tonight on the Fantasy Pros Fantasy Football Podcast. Until next time, like this video if you enjoyed it. Plus, subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel and podcast feed. Plus, download that My Playbook app. You're going to need it. I need it. I'm going to go check it out right now, seeing what I can do to dig myself out of a hole for next week. For Scott Bogman, I'm Seth Woolcock. Thanks for watching. Take care, y'all.
The Fantasy